Welcome to Wisconsin in Focus. I'm Bruce Walker, Great Lakes Regional Editor for the Center Square. And with me is Benjamin Yount, the Center Square's Wisconsin correspondent. How are we doing in polls in Wisconsin?
You edit my stories, and I imagine that the people who read my stories realize my overuse of the word snapshot, that this is the latest snapshot of where voters are in Wisconsin. The new Marquette Law School poll came out on Wednesday. And I love the term snapshot because if you watch the whole thing, that's the movie, right? If you're watching in real time, that's the documentary. But a snapshot is, okay, here's this and here's that and here's that. And if you put enough snapshots together, you can see the trend over time. You can watch the baby grow up, or you can watch the house get perfected, or you can watch the car get older. Or in the case of my Illinois State Fair press passes, you can watch me get fatter over the years. This is a great snapshot of where Wisconsin is here in June of 2023. Wisconsin is one of the key battleground states in the 2024 election. Wisconsin has been a battleground state for years. It is technically a purple state, though the voting record seems to indicate that it's more Democrat. Outside of Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump, Republicans just don't win this state statewide. That being said, Wisconsin is going to be home to the Republican National Convention, the first Republican debate. The Democrats are going to convention down in Chicago, which is about an hour and a half from the southern border. Wisconsin is key for both parties. And Marquette pollsters went out to get a snapshot of where voters are. Shows two things. One, it shows a very close race between Republican former President Donald Trump and Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Pollsters say 31% of Republicans favor Donald Trump, 30% support DeSantis. There's a hodgepodge of also-rans, and 21% haven't yet made up their mind or want someone else. This is similar to what we've seen in other polls. This is similar to the sense that politicos get here in Wisconsin. Donald Trump has support, sometimes almost beloved support. I don't want to say fanatical because that comes with a different connotation, but about a third of Republicans in Wisconsin love Donald Trump. 2/3, according to the poll, want someone other than Donald Trump. The poll also shows that when it comes to a head-to-head, the theoretical matchup of Joe Biden versus, it's a close race, Biden versus DeSantis. Biden wins 49-47, but a 2-point gap is overcomable. When it's a Biden versus Trump hypothetical matchup, pollsters say 52% of voters are going to pick Joe Biden, 43% are going to pick Donald Trump. That's a 9-point gap, and it is a different set of circumstances when Donald Trump is the candidate. Essentially, the Republicans lose votes and Joe Biden picks up votes. This poll is not going over well, as I think you would imagine, with some Trump supporters. This poll is going over okay with a number of DeSantis supporters, but part of the problem is that there is the follow-up question of, okay, well, where is the governor? He's spending all of his time in Iowa. No one's really come up here to Wisconsin. And so the snapshot takeaway is that if the election were held today, it would be a razor-thin margin on the Republican side, and Democrats have at least, at best, at worst, a slight edge here in Wisconsin, which is something that over the past, since 2016, Democrats have been able to take a slight edge in the poll and turn it into overwhelming electoral victories.
Okay, well, that's the national snapshot as it happens to be on the ground in Wisconsin. What about your homegrown politicians, your office holders there? I see that Tony Evers is actually polling very, very well.
Yeah, when I had to go back and look at the Marquette Law School poll from just before the election, and this is one of these first world complaints from a reporter. They changed the methodology in the poll, so they now don't necessarily have an overall job approval for the governor. It's sort of a approve or disapprove, and they break it down Republican, Independent, and Democrat. So it's tough to go apples to apples. But before the election, Tony Evers was polling at about 47% approval rating. Now here, fast forward to June of this year, after he won the election, 93% of Democrats approve of what the governor is doing. 60% of independents approve. Just 17% of Republicans approve, but it's that 60% independent number that shows just how popular this governor has become, how much he has gained. Pollsters do say 57% of voters here think the state is on the wrong track. 40% say it's headed in the right direction. If you go back to October of 2022, 58% said the state was on the wrong track. 34% said it was moving in the right direction. So while you still have a number of people, more than half in Wisconsin, who think that Tony Evers may not be taking us in the right direction, you have more people who are starting to come around and say, yes, we believe in this governor. And, these are the kinds of numbers that when two-term Tony, as he calls himself now, thinks about becoming three-term Tony, as he joked at the Democratic convention just a couple of weeks ago. These are the kind of numbers that would inspire Democrats in the state to believe, he really is as popular as you think he is. Now, no governor is going to be 80, 90%, but in a state that is 49, 47, 51, 49, in a state where you have an almost even split among voters across the state, anytime you can get 60% of independent voters to think that you're doing a good job, you're doing something right.
Are there any other political numbers of note in the latest Marquette poll?
There's a question about Joe Biden and his job approval. And again, these are tiny little variations. In October of 2022, the last time they asked these specific questions, 90% of Democrats approved of Joe Biden. It's now down to 89. In 2022, 3% of Republicans approved of Joe Biden. It's now down to 1%. The difference is independents. Independents in the state of Wisconsin, back in 2022, just 36% of independents thought the president is doing a good job. Now that's up to 46%. 56% disapproved back in October of 2022. 52% disapprove now. So the president has again gotten more popular. Not with Democrats. It was almost impossible for him to do that. He has certainly gotten less popular with Republicans, but that's to be expected. But it is that independent vote. And remember, it is independent voters largely who decide elections here in Wisconsin. Independent voters in the WOW counties may be a little fiscally conservative, may be a little socially liberal, may just not like Donald Trump, may want some changes from the Democrats who run this state. But it is those independents who believe that Tony Evers is doing a good job. And they apparently, according to this poll, believe that Joe Biden is doing a good job, or at least a better job than a year ago. And these are all signs, good signs, for Democrats as they look to the 2024 elections here in Wisconsin.
Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. I'm Bruce Walker, Great Lakes Regional Editor for The Center Square. Please subscribe, and thank you for listening.